My name is Coffea Iman, and this is another episode of Coffea Interviewed. Today we have Miss Tasha from Miss Icey's Kitchen. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
For people that may not know, just give us a little information about who you are.
So my name is Tasha Bell. I am one of the co-owners at Miss Icey's Kitchen and Bar, and I've been in Atlanta for 5 years. It might be 6. I kind of lost count.
Okay.
We've just been so busy, so I kind of just stopped counting the years that I've been here. But I am originally from St. Lucia by way of New York, and came down here to Atlanta to work with my business partners, who are now my business partners, but initially we came down here to open up a restaurant for one of my business partners' mother, with her to just help out. Okay. And fast forward 4 years later, we now have 3 restaurant projects, and Miss Icey's Kitchen is relaunching next week. After 4 years, we had taken a 2-month hiatus. 1, because of COVID, and 2, just to revamp, because we figured we needed a fresh new look. It has been a little tricky coming off of COVID. I mean, the pandemic is still happening, but
right
when it initially hit, it really took a toll, to say the least, on business. Luckily, we were able to bounce back, but not as vigorous as business had been prior for dinner service. So it's let's just take this time, get a little revamp. New year, new us.
Right. So tell us a little bit about the concept that you guys have for Miss Icey's Kitchen and Bar.
So initially, Miss Icey's Kitchen and Bar was a Caribbean Southern fused restaurant. And again, once the pandemic hit, we were just maybe we should just go the more traditional Caribbean route. Most of us have a West Indian background, Jamaican, St. Lucian, Costa Rican, and one of our partners is also Cambodian. But, in interest of business and then just the growing Caribbean community out in Atlanta, we figured, hey, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So let's just go back to what we're used to doing, because we've been well received across the board, no matter, where we are once we do Caribbean food. So it is in a more refined space. We did change up the space cosmetically. So it's a little more elegant than before. Before it was a little casual. It had feels of graffiti in New York, because we all came through New York before getting to Atlanta. So the space is just a little more refined, a little sexier, a little more mature. And then the cuisine is traditional Caribbean, obviously still being plated in a very nice way. Presentation matters to us a great deal, because we want people to come and feel like they're getting bang for their buck. So we're not skimping on food presentation and portions at all.
So you listed a number of places that you guys are from. So can you give us who's all in the partnership, and how did you guys all meet?
So it's a total of 5 of us, 6 of us. And we all met, with the exception of one person, in New York. So myself, Sim, and Clive knew each other first, and Yusef, because Yusef's Sim's brother. So they knew each other first, obviously. Okay. But myself and Clive worked with Sim at his mother's restaurant, Grill in New York. I started at the very first Grill Chelsea, when I first moved to New York from St. Lucia. And then fast forward 3 years, I ended up working at the second Grill in the Village, where it's crazy because I worked at the first Grill for a while, and I didn't meet Sim until 3 years later. Oh, wow. And I ended up working at Grill Village, where I ended up working with Clive, and then interacted with Sim a little more, because he was over at that restaurant more. So in that time, we all worked together. Clive and I went on to consult on another Caribbean restaurant in Brooklyn. And I want to say maybe 6 to 8 months after, he came down to Atlanta to help Sim with Grill down here, and Sim's mom and Sim, to help them with Grill. And Sopeak and Yusef were down here also.
So are you guys all located in, you saying down here as in Atlanta, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're all down here now. And Glenn, who had actually been a casual friend of Sim's and one of my customers, because I was bartending in New York also. Okay. So he would come to the restaurants all the time. So we knew him through that. And it just so turned out that the five of us worked together. And when we decided, all right, we probably should get our own restaurant, let's try.
Okay.
Right. We approached Glenn and he was just like, of course, I would love to be part of this. And the rest is history.
Now, have you guys ever, besides working in the restaurant industry, ran such a business that large as far as a complete restaurant?
Prior to, no, not okay. Not where it was our own. We've ran restaurants for other
corporations. Got you. Okay.
But to say that it belonged to us, no.
So how has that changed your perception of entrepreneurship, quote unquote?
So I feel like it didn't change it so much, but it definitely there were a lot of bigger lessons to learn. I've always understood that it's a lot of work, but what you don't see or what people don't show you is like the unexpected things. So the most random things will happen. Like nobody tells you might have to get up on the bar and fix the ceiling because
who else will fix it?
Right. Exactly. And who's expecting the ceiling to just randomly open up? Right. So like there are a lot of moving parts in a restaurant specifically. I think business is hard all around as an entrepreneur, but the restaurant has so many moving parts, like so many different personalities, because you're dealing with your staff, you're dealing with your guests, and then you're dealing with all the random things that break consistently. Right. I think things break in a restaurant more than anything else. It's kind of like a daycare center. And if you don't have that energy and zeal to just consistently be a babysitter, because I think most of the job is babysitting, making sure that things don't go wrong. So if you're up for that challenge, then it definitely is.
Okay. So what was your, coming from New York and then creating a restaurant in Atlanta, what were your inspiration for your menu items or just that whole vibe for that particular type of restaurant?
So we figured let's stick to who we are. We're Caribbean immigrant children living in New York, and moving to Atlanta was definitely an adjustment for all of us because culturally it was different. Mm-hmm. So we figured, I don't feel like there's anything that has the energy that we have out here. So why don't we put something out that's part of us, but that also embraces the culture in Atlanta? So that's kind of how we went about doing it, because we didn't want to cut or box anybody out. We wanted everybody to come to kind of experience us, and we experience them. So that's kind of been our MO when we're building spaces, is to just be consistent in putting our own experience forth and allowing people to come into our space and also share theirs so we could learn from each other.
Has that been challenging for you to do, to stay authentic to who you are when creating a restaurant?
Actually has not been, thank God. I can say that we've received so much just love and just like positive reactions from people in all our spaces. And it's such a blessing, you know what I mean? We were worried that it may have not been received the way it has been, because in New York, you have a more vast population of Caribbean people in one central place. In Atlanta or in Georgia, it's a little more spread out. So we were kind of worried, like, all right, so are they actually going to eat this food? Because right. may not like curry, people may not like spicy food, everybody may not eat oxtails. But people love it. And, it's great to watch people's reactions when they have the food, for people who are familiar and people who are not familiar. Okay. So it's been a blessing, to say the least.
So how have you managed to bring the 80s flair and that culture to Atlanta with the restaurant mix?
So when we first got down here, the initial concept was like a lot of people, New York resonates a lot with people because of hip hop and, 80s graffiti and stuff like that. So when we first started the restaurant, we were just like, remember, and we were all 80s babies. We're like, remember you would wake up Saturday mornings, watch cartoons, eat cereal. So we thought that it would be great to kind of just bring those parts of us also. But as time has gone by, we understand that you have to retool as time changes to just remain current. So with the revamp, we've kind of gotten rid of some of those elements. We still want to have our 80s sitcoms playing on the television because that is still a very nostalgic part of 80s babies or just 80s culture. So we're keeping that part. But some of the other stuff we kind of had to.
You say you've pivoted a little, but do you think that's going to take away from your customer base, or do you think it's just as long as the menu's there?
I don't think it will. We're providing the same great experience, the same great customer service, the same great food. I don't think people only come for a physical space, right? It's cool to be in a beautiful space, but if the space is just beautiful with no substance, odds are you're not going to come back just to say, oh, I want to sit in this beautiful restaurant, right? So we pride ourselves on making sure that when you come, you get a great atmosphere, you get great customer service and great food. And those three are tricky to juggle because the pace of the restaurant itself is so fast. But we've been lucky enough to be able to execute that on most occasions.
Now we're in the heart of Women's History Month. So what kind of challenges have you faced or are you currently facing when it comes to the restaurant industry as a whole? Because it seems like everything is male dominated, or they try to make it appear to be. So how have you made that balance adjustment, or what has been a major challenge for you?
So in all honesty, I can't say that I've had any major challenges as a woman in this industry from the time I started. One, I learned under a woman, an immigrant woman. And two, despite all my partners being men, they all treat me with the utmost respect. And they actually listen to what I say. Sometimes they actually realize, so have you asked your mother? Because they call me the mother. So Sim will say to Clive, or G will say to Clive, like, y'all spoke to y'all mother about this? Like, what are we doing? Make sure y'all tell Tasha because I don't want no smoke. But they're very respectful of my opinions of what I bring to the table. And they consult with me on a number of issues before actually making decisions. So, and I know it's traditionally restaurants are definitely a male-dominated profession, especially with chefs. But the women who actually do restaurants are doing amazing. I know quite a few of them. So I think, we just have to make sure we keep highlighting them. Restaurant work is very tasking physically. So, it might look prestigious, but it's so much hard work. Physically, like you always have to be picking things up. Odds are you're going to have to know how to fix something if it breaks. So it requires a lot of you as a woman. And obviously society tells us that, certain things women is a little harder. And I'm not saying that's not true because I've had days where I'm the only one present when something breaks and have to figure it out. Like I've had to do plumbing. I've had to, you know what I mean? Like go clean the toilets. And part of it is just understanding that you have to be multifaceted and nothing can be too much for you to do. So it's cute when things are going great, but when it's not, it just requires a lot of you, and then just remaining open to knowing that your hands are probably gonna have to get dirty.
Okay. Well, you guys have mentioned Miss Icey's Kitchen has been an incorporation of all your fondest memories of your childhood. So what have your childhood memories contributed to Miss Icey's Kitchen?
So me personally, it would be certain food items.
Okay.
So growing up in St. Lucia, we had this, we call it dal, which is kind of an Indian inspired dish because we have so many different races in St. Lucia, but we kind of watered it down just a little bit so people could really just enjoy it. So that was my certain food items. I was just like, oh, can we have this? Because I really like that. And some people do come and recognize it and get excited about it. So that was my contribution from childhood.
Like, we have to have this. Great. Great. Well, it was awesome. I'm so glad to be able to have met you, Tasha.
Yes, thanks
I
for
will
having
have to
me.
get down there and enjoy some of the lovely food and the dishes. And you have to show me the one that's your favorite. So we got to make sure it says Tasha's favorite on there, so everyone knows.
Sure.
But being a woman in entrepreneurship, what are your greatest takeaways from that? Because I know we talked about your challenges, but a lot of people are pumped, especially because of the pandemic, to say, I'm going to go out and do my own thing. I don't want to work corporately, or, I want to make sure I team up. So what was your greatest takeaway from just jumping out into entrepreneurship with these guys at that?
Right, with my crazy brothers. Patience for one, and just consistently learning. And then when you learn something, not forgetting what you've learned, because it doesn't necessarily get easier, but you get better if you keep the lessons that you've learned to apply them as you move from one level to the next.
Okay. Well, thanks again. You are such
Thank
a
you.
pleasure. Make sure you guys visit Miss Icey's Kitchen and Bar. And where's it located in Atlanta?
We're at 1371 Claremont Road in North Decatur, right next to Emory.
All right. Make sure you go visit. And where could they follow you on social media or your website?
We're at missiceys.com for the website and Miss Icey's Kitchen on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining me. It was such a pleasure. Like I said, make sure you guys follow, make sure you visit, make sure you go to the grand reopening, and make sure you give her feedback on her favorite dish. Thanks a lot, Tasha.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.